Talia Baker was just 14 when she saw the family restaurant she'd grown up in on the edge of closing. Baker's Haven was a cozy spot known for its soul food, family recipes, and generations of memories, but the competition from trendy new restaurants threatened to wipe it out. Talia, a quiet girl with a passion for photography and design, didn't think her talents could make a difference. But as she watched her parents, Nathaniel and Lorraine, struggle to keep the place open, she couldn't just stand by. With a camera, her phone, and a lot of heart, she decided to show the world the love that lived within Baker's Haven's walls. She started by sharing mouth-watering photos of her family's dishes online, each post telling a piece of her family's history and the food that brought people together. To her surprise, her posts went viral, drawing old and new customers alike. Soon, Baker's Haven was bustling with life. Talia didn't stop there. She organized community events, turned the restaurant into a place where customers could share memories, and even added cooking classes to pass on the recipes she'd grown up with. By the end, Baker's Haven was not only saved but transformed, a symbol of resilience and connection in her community. And Talia? She'd discovered a hidden talent, a passion, and a future she'd never expected. Can you imagine the courage it took for a 14-year-old to step up and save her family's legacy? If Talia's story touched you, hit like, share, and tell us in the comments. What family traditions or places are most meaningful to you? The bustling sounds of pots clanging, pans sizzling, and voices shouting across the kitchen created a symphony of organized chaos in Baker's Haven. The scent of freshly baked cornbread, collard greens seasoned to perfection, and the unmistakable aroma of fried chicken filled the air. Talia Baker, 14 years old with a head full of tightly wound curls and an observant gaze, stood by the corner of the counter, her eyes taking in the scene that had become all too familiar to her over the years. Her parents, Lorraine and Nathaniel Baker, were at the heart of the kitchen, moving in sync like dancers performing a well-rehearsed routine. The restaurant had been their life and legacy, passed down from Nathaniel's parents, who'd opened it decades before. Lorraine and Nathaniel had poured every ounce of love, sweat, and pride into keeping Baker's Haven alive, feeding it with their dreams and the hope of passing it on to their children. But lately, those dreams seemed fragile. Talia watched her father as he leaned over the stove, his face etched with concentration. She could tell he was tired, exhausted really. The lines on his face had deepened over the last few months, mirroring the struggles the restaurant was facing. Nathaniel had always been a strong man in Talia's eyes, a rock in their family, but tonight his shoulders seemed a little heavier, his movements a little slower. "Talia, honey, could you get me that basket of biscuits?" her mother called, snapping Talia out of her thoughts. She quickly moved to the other side of the kitchen, grabbing the basket and handing it to her mother, who gave her a warm but weary smile. "Thanks, sweetheart. You've been such a big help," Lorraine said, patting Talia's shoulder. Talia returned her mother's smile, but inside, worry gnawed at her. Business had been dwindling for months, while Baker's Haven held a special place in the hearts of the community. The arrival of trendy new restaurants with flashy decor and social media followings had drawn customers away. Baker's Haven, with its worn wooden tables, faded family photos and menus scrawled by hand on a chalkboard, was struggling to compete. After the last customer of the evening left and the kitchen fell silent, Talia sat at one of the tables, watching as her parents finished their closing routine. The warm light cast a cozy glow over the room, highlighting the decades-old memorabilia that decorated the walls, reminders of the restaurant's rich history. But tonight, that warmth felt like it was slipping away. "Mum, Dad, what if—" Talia hesitated, unsure how to express the worry building up inside her. What if things don't get better? Lorraine and Nathaniel exchanged a glance. Talia could see the pain in their eyes, masked only by a forced smile. Her father knelt beside her, resting a heavy hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out, baby girl," he said, his voice steady but tired. "This place has been here longer than you've been alive. It's our legacy, and we'll do everything we can to keep it going." Talia swallowed, nodding, but she couldn't ignore the weight in her chest. That night, after her parents headed to bed, Talia lingered in the restaurant alone. Her mind drifted to her notebooks, where she'd been secretly sketching ideas, little things she thought might help the restaurant. She loved art, photography, and design, even though she'd never thought of herself as talented enough to make a difference with them. She was just a kid with a phone, taking photos and doodling in the margins of her homework. But now, as she stood in the empty restaurant, a thought began to take shape in her mind. A small flicker of hope she was almost afraid to entertain. What if her creativity could actually help? She knew social media was where people found new places, new foods to try. What if she could use what she knew to put Baker's Haven on the map? With a quiet resolve, Talia decided to try something. She grabbed her phone and, heart racing, started snapping pictures of the dishes that were left out on the counter. The warm lighting from the overhead fixtures bathed the food in a soft glow, and she experimented with angles, capturing the golden brown biscuits, the glistening fried chicken, and the collard greens nestled in their cast-iron pot. Each photo made the food look irresistible, even to her. She knew her family's cooking was delicious. She just had to make others see that too. After half an hour of snapping photos and editing them with simple filters, Talia made a new account on a social media app. She called it Baker's Haven Kitchen and uploaded her first post, a shot of a plate of fried chicken with a caption that read, "Nothing says home like Mama Lorraine's famous fried chicken. Taste the love that's kept Baker's Haven alive for generations." She hit post and sat there for a moment, staring at the screen, unsure what to expect. The following day, she barely thought about it. School and homework occupied her day until she returned to the restaurant that evening. But when she checked her phone, her eyes widened. The photo had already been shared dozens of times by people in the community, with comments pouring in from friends and neighbors saying they'd forgotten how much they missed Baker's Haven. "Wow," Talia murmured, a tiny spark of excitement flaring up in her chest. Maybe she was onto something. Her heart raced at the idea of doing more, pushing herself further to help her family. As the days passed, Talia continued to snap pictures whenever she could, capturing the food, the ambience, even candid moments of her parents cooking together. She added heartfelt captions that told the story of Baker's Haven, describing each dish as if it were a piece of their family's history. Slowly, she began to build an online presence, one post at a time. Each photo and caption told a part of their story. The recipes handed down from her grandmother, the love her parents poured into every meal, and the countless memories their food created for the community. Though her parents were still hesitant about her new hobby, she could tell they were secretly pleased when regulars began stopping by again, many of them mentioning the new social media posts. Her father's proud but puzzled expression made her smile. But Talia knew they were far from saved. It was just the beginning, and the pressure was growing. With each day, her resolve deepened, a determination brewing within her. She would do everything she could to save Baker's Haven. The next evening, after helping her mother with the evening rush, Talia slipped away to find a quiet corner in the back office. Her phone buzzed in her pocket with a steady stream of notifications from the Baker's Haven kitchen page, and her heart skipped at each new comment, each sign that people were paying attention. She opened the app, watching as neighbors, friends, and even a few people she didn't recognize commented on her photos. There were hearts, words of encouragement, even memories from some of the older patrons who fondly remembered the restaurant's early days. She felt a thrill she couldn't explain, but just as quickly a wave of nerves settled over her. She knew her father was still skeptical about what her phone could do to bring business back, especially since he had spent years running things the proper way. Her mother was more open-minded, but Talia worried that if her parents knew she was getting her hopes up, they might be disappointed if things didn't work out. But this was for them, she reminded herself, gripping the phone tighter. She was determined to make her small skills matter, to show her family and everyone around them just how valuable Baker's Haven was. After a few more minutes, Talia rejoined her parents, who were wiping down tables and preparing to close up for the night. Lorraine glanced over as Talia picked up a rag and started polishing one of the tables. "You were back there a while, sweetie. Everything okay?" Lorraine asked, giving her daughter a gentle smile. Talia hesitated, glancing down at the table. "Yeah, I just thought maybe there's something else I can do to help," she said, feeling the weight of her words as they left her mouth. "I know things have been tight." Her father's hands paused over the pile of menus he was straightening. He met her gaze, his expression softening. "It's been a rough year, Talia. But don't worry, we'll keep going, just like we always have," he said, his voice a mixture of reassurance and fatigue. In that moment, Talia wished she could say something, anything that would lift the weight off his shoulders. But she knew words alone wouldn't be enough. They needed a miracle, something big and meaningful enough to make people notice Baker's Haven again, to remind everyone what made their little restaurant so special. She bit her lip, feeling a mix of excitement and fear swirling in her chest. What if this is it? What if I could really do this? The next few days were a blur of school, chores, and late nights spent experimenting. Talia watched tutorial after tutorial on how to improve her food photography, learning about lighting, angles, and framing. She practiced when no one was looking, snapping shots of biscuits on the counter or steaming pots of gumbo her mother ladled out during the dinner rush. She even convinced her best friend Jada to help her set up a makeshift photo studio in her bedroom where they could test out different backgrounds and decorations to highlight the dishes. In her heart, Talia felt a growing connection to the restaurant she'd taken for granted all these years. The more she poured into her work, the more she realized how much Baker's Haven was a part of her, her family, and her memories. Each photo became more than an image on a screen. It was a way of capturing the love and pride her parents had poured into every dish, every meal they'd served to their loyal customers over the years. One evening, after she posted a new photo of her mother's famous cornbread with honey butter, she noticed a surge of activity on the page. Comments flooded in from people all over town, and a few even came from neighboring towns asking when Baker's Haven was open and if they could bring their families. The excitement of seeing her efforts pay off lit up her face, and Talia's fingers trembled as she typed responses, each one a small spark of hope. But despite the initial excitement, doubt crept in as well. For every compliment, there was a reminder of the hard work yet to be done. She still overheard her parents' worried conversations late at night, whispered in tired voices over the dining table. Bills were piling up faster than she could bring in new customers, and Talia knew it was only a matter of time before they'd have to make hard decisions. One night, Talia sat alone in the restaurant, scrolling through her photos and reading the comments. Her heart was heavy, and despite her determination, a voice of doubt echoed in her mind. What if it's not enough? What if I can't really make a difference? Just then, she heard the soft creak of the front door. She looked up, expecting to see her father coming back in to grab something he'd forgotten, but instead she saw her mother carrying 2 mugs of tea. Lorraine placed one mug in front of Talia, sitting down across from her with a tender, knowing smile. "Burning the midnight oil, huh?" Lorraine asked, nodding toward Talia's phone. Talia nodded, wrapping her hands around the warm mug, grateful for her mother's presence. She hadn't expected her mum to notice her efforts, much less understand them. But Lorraine reached across the table, placing a gentle hand over Talia's. "You know," Lorraine began softly, her voice a gentle balm to Talia's worried heart. "When your father and I first took over Baker's Haven, we had no idea what we were doing. It took us years to find our rhythm. We made a lot of mistakes and we doubted ourselves so many times." She gave Talia's hand a gentle squeeze. "But we kept going, and we always will." Talia felt a lump form in her throat, a mixture of love and relief. Her mother's words reminded her why she was doing this, not just to save the restaurant, but to honor everything her parents had built, everything they'd sacrificed. She straightened in her seat, a renewed sense of determination filling her chest. I want to help, Mom. I want people to know how amazing this place is." "I want them to love it as much as we do," Talia said, her voice quiet but filled with resolve. Lorraine smiled, a spark of pride in her eyes. "Then keep going, baby. We're proud of you, and I know your heart's in the right place." With her mother's encouragement echoing in her mind, Talia went back to her photos with a new purpose. She poured her heart into each shot, each caption, every interaction with the people who commented. She found herself dreaming up ideas, envisioning ways to capture the soul of Baker's Haven and bring it to life online. And as she worked, she felt a powerful, growing belief that maybe, just maybe, she had the strength to make a difference. After all. The next morning, Talia woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. Her phone buzzed with notifications from the Baker's Haven kitchen page, and she was amazed to see how many people had engaged with the latest post. Her mother's words from the night before echoed in her mind, giving her confidence as she prepared for school. She had a plan now, a way to showcase the restaurant's roots, its history, and its incredible food. But she knew she couldn't stop there. The world was moving fast, and she'd need something special, something bold, to pull in new faces while reminding the regulars what they loved about Baker's Haven. That afternoon, Talia skipped her usual routine of heading straight to the restaurant after school and took a detour to meet her friend Jada. She filled Jada in on her plans to bring Baker's Haven back to life, explaining her ideas for marketing and her vision to create a buzz that would draw people in. "So you're going to use your photography skills to show the food and tell the story?" Jada asked, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "That's genius, Talia. You know what? You could even make it into a whole event." Talia looked at her friend, her brow furrowed. "What kind of event?" "Like a throwback night," Jada suggested. "Have your parents make the oldest recipes from the menu and invite everyone in the community. It would be a blast, and you could show off everything the restaurant has to offer in one night." Talia felt her heart race at the idea. A special night at Baker's Haven filled with laughter, stories, and the restaurant's most cherished dishes. It sounded perfect. But it would also be a lot of work, and she knew her parents were already exhausted from trying to keep up with the day-to-day demands. "Do you think they'd go for it?" she asked Jada, her excitement tempered by uncertainty. "It's a huge risk. We're barely breaking even as it is." Jada shrugged. It's worth a shot. They know how much this place means to you and to the community. Plus, it's a way to celebrate everything Baker's Haven has stood for all these years, and you can use your photography and social media skills to promote it like crazy. Talia couldn't help but grin, her mind already racing with possibilities. She'd take photos of each dish as they prepped for the event, share stories from her family's history, and give sneak peeks on social media. It would be a big night, a final push to bring customers back. And maybe, just maybe, it would be enough to save Baker's Haven. That evening, Talia approached her parents with the idea. She laid out her vision with excitement, explaining how the event could be a chance to reconnect with the community and remind everyone of the love, history, and tradition behind their food. Her father looked at her thoughtfully, a slight frown on his face. "That's quite a plan, Talia," he said, rubbing his chin. "But you know it would take a lot of effort. We'd have to prepare a lot of food and we'd need help setting everything up. Plus, I don't know if people will come just for nostalgia's sake." Lorraine, on the other hand, seemed intrigued. "I think it's a lovely idea. We could showcase some of Grandma's recipes, share stories from when the restaurant first opened, and even have a few of our long-time customers share their memories." Talia could sense her father's hesitation, so she reached across the table, meeting his gaze with determination. "Dad, I know it's a big ask, but I really believe this could work. We've been trying to keep up with everyone else, but maybe it's time to lean into what makes us different, what makes people feel at home here." Nathaniel looked at her, then at Lorraine, before letting out a long breath. "All right, Talia, we'll give it a try. But you'll be in charge of promoting it and making sure the word gets out. And we're going to need every bit of help we can get to pull this off." Talia's face lit up with relief and excitement. She promised to do everything in her power to make the event a success. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Talia, her parents, and a few of the restaurant's most loyal staff members worked tirelessly to prepare for the event. Talia spent hours drafting posts, sharing sneak peeks of the menu, and telling stories about her family's journey with Baker's Haven. She highlighted the famous peach cobbler recipe that her grandmother had perfected, the honey butter cornbread that customers had loved for generations, and the golden fried chicken that was practically legendary in their town. In between helping her parents prepare the food, Talia was everywhere with her phone, snapping photos of steaming plates, garnishes, and her mother's hands as she carefully crafted each dish. She even filmed a short video of her father talking about his childhood memories in the restaurant, his voice filled with pride and a hint of nostalgia. "People used to come from all over to get a taste of my mom's peach cobbler," he said, his voice warm and nostalgic. "Baker's Haven isn't just a restaurant. It's a piece of our family, a place that's been built by love and hard work." The post went viral within their community. People shared it, tagged their friends, and commented with their own stories, bringing in a wave of support and enthusiasm for the upcoming event. Finally, the night of the throwback event arrived. Talia could hardly contain her excitement and nerves as she watched the tables fill up with familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and even a few people who had grown up in town but now lived elsewhere. The cozy interior of Baker's Haven was alive with chatter, laughter, and the clinking of dishes as guests settled in, eager to taste the dishes they remembered from their childhoods. Talia's phone buzzed as notifications poured in from people who couldn't attend but wanted to express their support. Each new message, like and share, lifted her spirit, making her feel the impact of her work. She moved through the tables, taking photos and sharing glimpses of the night on social media, letting people everywhere feel like they were part of the celebration. The kitchen was a flurry of movement as her parents and the staff worked tirelessly to keep up with the orders. Talia could see the spark in her father's eyes, a fire that she hadn't seen in him for a long time. He even joined in on a few of the stories, sharing memories of his own and laughing with customers, his worries momentarily forgotten. As the evening continued, a familiar face entered the restaurant, a food blogger who had noticed Talia's posts and decided to see what Baker's Haven was all about. He approached Talia with a warm smile, introducing himself as Andre Davis. "I've been seeing your posts everywhere," Andre said, his eyes scanning the bustling restaurant. "It's clear how much love goes into this place. I'd love to do a feature on Baker's Haven." Talia's heart leapt. A feature from Andre could mean more exposure than she'd ever dreamed of, a chance to bring even more people to their door. She thanked him, barely able to contain her excitement, and promised to introduce him to her parents. As she led him to the kitchen, a rush of pride filled her chest. For the first time, she felt the weight of her efforts paying off, as if her talent was truly making a difference. The night ended with a packed restaurant, satisfied guests, and a buzz that Talia hadn't seen in Baker's Haven in years. Her parents were exhausted but thrilled, beaming with pride as they said goodbye to each guest. As they closed up for the night, Talia's father pulled her into a tight hug, his voice filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you, baby girl. You brought people back to us. I never thought this little restaurant would mean so much to so many." Talia held back tears, feeling a warmth in her heart that she knew she would carry with her forever. For the first time, she realized that her skills weren't just a hobby or a dream. They were a part of her family's story, and they had the power to create something truly meaningful. As the excitement of the event night settled, Talia felt a sense of accomplishment she'd never known before. However, she also understood that one successful evening wasn't enough to keep Baker's Haven afloat indefinitely. She needed to build on that momentum, to keep the interest alive in a world that moved on as quickly as it got excited. The next morning, Talia was back at her phone, crafting a follow-up post that celebrated the evening while hinting at more exciting things to come. She included photos from the event, close-ups of the food, shots of her parents laughing with customers, and even a few candid photos of guests sharing stories with one another. She ended the post with a heartfelt caption, "From our family to yours. Thank you for celebrating with us last night. Here's to more memories and meals together. Stay tuned for what's next." Her phone buzzed constantly over the next few hours as likes and comments poured in, with people sharing stories from the night and tagging friends. The turnout and engagement reassured her that people still cared about Baker's Haven. But she knew she couldn't relax. With other restaurants still aggressively promoting themselves, Talia needed to find a way to make Baker's Haven stand out even further. An idea sparked in her mind. She could expand beyond just photos and posts. Video content, she thought, would bring people right into the heart of Baker's Haven, showing them the warmth and passion her family poured into each dish. She wanted the world to see her father's meticulous attention to the food, her mother's gentle, loving touches, and the way they interacted with every guest as if they were family. That afternoon, Talia approached her parents with the idea of creating a series of videos, short, casual clips that captured the essence of Baker's Haven. Nathaniel hesitated, looking unsure. "I don't know, Talia," he said, scratching the back of his head. "I'm no movie star, and you know I'm not big on cameras." Lorraine laughed softly and patted his shoulder. Oh, come on, Nathaniel. You're the one who loves talking to the customers about every ingredient. Let Talia show the world what makes this place special. I think people would love it. Nathaniel sighed but nodded, a reluctant smile creeping onto his face. All right, just don't go making me look too silly, okay? Talia grinned, already envisioning how to capture the moments that made her parents' love for their work shine through. She spent the rest of the day planning the shots she'd take and practicing with her camera settings. By the next morning, she was ready to start filming. She began with her father prepping ingredients, the camera close enough to show his hands moving methodically through each step. His fingers worked with a practiced ease as he chopped, seasoned, and arranged each element, his focus unwavering. Talia zoomed in on the flour dusting his hands as he prepared biscuit dough, catching the way he kneaded with a rhythm he'd learned from his own mother. Later, she filmed her mother stirring a pot of gumbo, her expression warm and proud. Lorraine explained the history behind the dish, her voice filled with nostalgia. This gumbo recipe has been in our family for generations. My grandmother used to make it during family gatherings, and it was always the highlight of the meal. We like to think it has a little magic in it, bringing people together. Lorraine's words, as soft and comforting as her cooking, moved Talia. She knew that sharing these stories would give people something real to connect with, something that would make them see Baker's Haven not as just another restaurant, but as a living piece of the community's history. With a week's worth of footage, Talia pieced together a short video she titled The Heart of Baker's Haven. She added captions that explained the heritage of each dish and highlighted the bond her parents shared with their work and customers. She uploaded the video to the restaurant's page, and within hours, it had gone viral locally. Friends, family, and community members shared it widely, tagging others and leaving comments filled with praise and nostalgia. The response was overwhelming, even to Talia, who had hoped for but never expected this level of impact. "Your video gave me goosebumps," one woman commented. "Watching it took me right back to my childhood. Baker's Haven isn't just a restaurant, it's a treasure." The video also caught the attention of a well-known local food writer who reached out to Talia, expressing interest in writing a feature on Baker's Haven. Thrilled, Talia eagerly arranged a time for the writer to visit and meet her parents, knowing that this coverage could bring even more visibility to the restaurant. When the writer, Carmen Jacobs, arrived a few days later, Talia guided her through the restaurant, proudly introducing her to each corner, each memento, and finally to her parents. Carmen, impressed by the family's warmth and dedication, spoke with Lorraine and Nathaniel about their history, their passion, and the ups and downs of keeping a family restaurant alive. "This place is more than a business," Carmen said, jotting down notes as she spoke to Lorraine. "It's a legacy, a testament to family, community, and resilience. People need to see that." The article, published in a popular local magazine, added fuel to the fire. Soon the restaurant was bustling with not just regulars, but curious newcomers as well. People came in from surrounding towns, many saying they'd come specifically after reading the article or seeing Talia's videos online. The increase in business brought a new energy to the restaurant, and her father's confidence in Talia's digital strategy grew. But with the surge in customers came unexpected challenges. Talia noticed that some newer restaurants in the area began to copy her marketing style, sharing posts that mimicked Baker's Haven's nostalgic storytelling. At first, she felt flattered, but as the imitations became more frequent, she worried. Her efforts had made a difference, but she needed to keep the authenticity of Baker's Haven strong to stand out. One evening, she sat alone in the restaurant, considering her next move. The social media posts and videos had worked, but now she needed a way to deepen the connection with customers, a way to remind them that Baker's Haven wasn't just about aesthetics, but about genuine, heartfelt experiences. After some thought, she decided to create an interactive campaign. She set up a memory wall inside the restaurant, inviting customers to write down their favorite memories of Baker's Haven on small pieces of paper and pin them to the wall. Some wrote about family dinners, birthday celebrations, or special moments shared with loved ones. Others shared simple but cherished memories of their favorite meals or the kindness shown by her parents. Talia also posted about the memory wall on social media, inviting people to share their stories online with the hashtag #BakersHavenMemories. Soon, stories poured in from people who couldn't visit in person, some who had moved far away but had fond memories of the restaurant. Each post, each memory, helped weave a web of connection around the restaurant, solidifying it as a place that went beyond just food. One particularly touching memory came from an elderly man named Mr. Walton, who visited Baker's Haven every Sunday with his late wife for over 40 years. He wrote, "Baker's Haven was more than just a place to eat for us. It was part of our life together. My wife loved the peach cobbler here, and I'd give anything to taste it with her just one more time." Talia shared his story, with his permission, on the restaurant's social media page. The story went viral, touching the hearts of thousands. People from all over commented, offering him kindness and support, sharing their own memories of loved ones, and expressing gratitude for places like Baker's Haven that held space for such treasured moments. The response to the memory wall reaffirmed something Talia had known deep down. Baker's Haven wasn't just a restaurant. It was a place where people came to feel connected, to share laughter and love, to create memories they would carry for a lifetime. With each passing day, Talia saw her parents' spirits lift, the light returning to her father's eyes as he laughed and shared stories with new and returning customers. She could feel the positive energy reverberating through the walls, almost as if the restaurant itself was coming back to life. Despite the challenges, Talia's heart swelled with pride. She knew that their hard work, her family's love, and her determination had brought Baker's Haven back from the edge. It was more than just a business now. It was a legacy she'd been honored to help carry forward. And with the community's continued support, she believed Baker's Haven would thrive for many more years to come. With the memory wall bringing life and warmth to Baker's Haven, Talia felt closer to her family's history and mission than ever before. It had been months since her family had seen so many smiling faces and lively conversations filling their cozy restaurant. Her father's shoulders no longer sagged with worry, and her mother's laugh filled the room with a joy Talia hadn't heard in far too long. Despite the momentum, Talia knew there was no time to ease up. Business was steady but still fragile. She had to think of new ways to keep the restaurant in the community's heart and mind. One afternoon, she sat by the memory wall, reading the heartfelt notes and thinking about how to build on the impact they had made. As her fingers trailed over the handwritten notes, an idea struck her, an opportunity to engage the customers directly and make them feel like a bigger part of Baker's Haven. She called her mother over, excitement bubbling in her voice. "Mum, what if we run a contest to feature a new dish inspired by our customers' favorite memories?" Her mother's eyes lit up with interest. "How do you mean, Talia?" "We could invite people to share stories or recipes they remember from their own family gatherings, maybe dishes that remind them of home. Then we could choose one story or one recipe to feature on our menu for a month, and we'd share the story behind it on social media and add it to the memory wall." Lorraine's smile grew, her pride in her daughter evident. "That's a beautiful idea, Talia. It would be a way to celebrate our customers as part of the Baker's Haven family. Talia could feel her excitement growing as she began outlining the idea, thinking of all the ways they could make the contest special. Not only would it give the restaurant fresh, personal content to share, but it would also connect customers to Baker's Haven in a way that made them feel part of its story. That evening, Talia sat down with her phone and started designing a post announcing the Recipe of Memories contest. She wrote out the rules, encouraging customers to submit either a family recipe or a memory of a meal that held special meaning to them. The winner would see their recipe on the Baker's Haven menu for a month, with their story shared on the memory wall and the restaurant's social media page. Her announcement was met with an enthusiastic response almost immediately. People were thrilled by the idea, tagging friends and family and posting stories and dishes that had brought joy to their own dinner tables. The entries ranged from handwritten recipes passed down from grandparents to stories of Sunday family dinners and birthday meals. Each story painted a picture of love, family, and heritage, qualities that resonated with the spirit of Baker's Haven. A week later, Talia and her parents sat down to go through the submissions. Lorraine read aloud each story, her voice growing soft with emotion at the heartfelt words. Talia felt overwhelmed with the beauty of the memories people were willing to share, each one revealing a small piece of their own family history. After hours of reading and laughter and some tears, they narrowed it down to a single entry: a recipe for Nana's sweet potato pie submitted by a woman named Darlene Henderson. In her submission, Darlene had written about her grandmother who had taught her how to make the pie from scratch. For years, the recipe had been a family tradition, served only at special gatherings to mark occasions that brought everyone together. Darlene described how her grandmother's sweet potato pie was more than just a dessert. It was a way of holding on to her family's past, of remembering where they came from and who they were. Reading Darlene's story, Talia felt an immediate connection. She saw a reflection of her own family's history in Darlene's words, and she knew her parents felt it too. The following week, Talia announced Darlene as the winner of the contest, sharing her story and the significance of her grandmother's recipe with the restaurant's followers. The post received an outpouring of love and support, with people congratulating Darlene and sharing their excitement to try the new dish at Baker's Haven. In preparation for the feature, Lorraine and Talia spent hours perfecting the pie, with Lorraine insisting on getting the taste just right. By the time they were ready to debut the dish, it had become a symbol of the community's connection to the restaurant, a collaboration of shared stories and heritage. On the day of the pie's launch, Darlene and her family arrived at the restaurant, greeted with cheers and applause. Talia presented Darlene with the first slice, a warm slice of pie topped with a dollop of whipped cream. As Darlene took her first bite, her eyes filled with tears. "It tastes just like Nana's," she whispered, looking at Lorraine with gratitude. "Thank you for making this feel like home." The community's response was immediate and heartwarming. Customers flocked to Baker's Haven to try Nana's sweet potato pie, and many left notes on the memory wall, sharing memories of similar family gatherings. Talia continued to post about the dish, capturing moments of guests enjoying it, their smiles lit with nostalgia and delight. Each photo, each comment, felt like a small victory, a reminder that Baker's Haven was more than just food. It was a shared experience, a place where memories came alive. But amid the restaurant's resurgence, Talia faced an unexpected setback. A trendy new restaurant nearby had taken note of Baker's Haven's community-focused campaign and started implementing their own, mimicking her memory wall concept and running similar contests for customer stories. Talia felt a pang of frustration knowing that while imitation might be flattering, it also meant increased competition. For a moment, she felt disheartened, wondering if her ideas would be enough to keep Baker's Haven unique. Her mind raced with worries. What if they couldn't stay ahead? What if the bigger restaurants outshined them with their resources and reach? She sat in the quiet of the restaurant late one night, her thoughts swirling. But as she looked around at the photos and memories covering the wall, Talia felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just doing this to compete. Baker's Haven's story couldn't be replicated, no matter how hard others tried. The heart of the restaurant wasn't a gimmick, it was genuine, and that authenticity was something that couldn't be duplicated. The next day, she gathered her parents and proposed her next idea, a Heritage Night event where customers could come in not just to eat, but to share their stories, their favorite family recipes, and the memories that tied them together. Each customer would receive a booklet with recipes from the Baker family, along with a few featured recipes from the memory wall that had special significance. This would be a celebration of heritage, honoring the traditions and flavors that made Baker's Haven and the community around it unique. As word of the Heritage Night spread, excitement grew. Local newspapers picked up on the story, celebrating Baker's Haven as a restaurant dedicated not just to food, but to the fabric of the community itself. The event became a huge success, drawing in families who had grown up with the restaurant, as well as newcomers eager to experience the rich history and flavors it offered. Guests came dressed in outfits that reflected their cultural backgrounds, and many brought recipes to share, handing copies to Talia for the next community cookbook she planned to assemble. There were joyful moments as people tasted dishes that reminded them of their childhoods, and quiet, meaningful ones as they listened to others share family stories and memories. The night was filled with laughter, song, and the clinking of glasses, a celebration of the ties that bound everyone together. As the evening wound down, Nathaniel took the microphone, looking out over the crowd with a proud but humbled expression. His voice, warm and steady, filled the room. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began. "Baker's Haven has always been about family, not just our family, but yours too. We've been here for generations because of you, because of this community." Talia reminded us of that. She reminded us that we aren't just serving food. We're serving memories, love, and heritage. He looked over at Talia, his eyes filled with pride. Our daughter's vision brought new life to Baker's Haven. She's shown us that our family's story is still being written, thanks to each and every one of you. The room filled with applause, and Talia's heart swelled with emotion. She realized then that she had done more than just save her family's business. She had strengthened its foundation, anchored it deeper in the community's heart. Through her creativity and resilience, she had woven together a network of love, stories, and memories that would hold Baker's Haven steady for years to come. And as she stood with her family, surrounded by friends, neighbors, and new faces, Talia felt something inside her shift. She had started this journey unsure of her own strength, wondering if her talents could truly make a difference. But now she understood that her voice, her vision, had the power to change not just her family's life, but her community's too. Baker's Haven was alive again, thriving in a way Talia had once only dreamed of. And she knew that as long as she continued sharing its story, one memory at a time, it would stay that way. As the Heritage Night faded into cherished memories, the newfound energy around Baker's Haven lingered. The success of the event not only helped to further cement the restaurant's place in the community, but it also brought a steady stream of new customers curious to see what made the place so beloved. Talia could hardly believe how much had changed. Just months ago, the restaurant had been struggling, and her parents were on the brink of giving up. Now Baker's Haven was thriving in ways none of them had anticipated. With business booming, Talia found herself constantly juggling new ideas to keep Baker's Haven fresh in people's minds. She became almost as busy as her parents, spending long hours after school and on weekends managing the restaurant's social media, responding to comments and brainstorming with her mother on upcoming specials. But as the months rolled on, her schoolwork began to pile up and exhaustion started to creep in. One rainy evening, Talia was sitting in the back corner of the restaurant, her head resting in her hands as she tried to work through an assignment. Her mother noticed her struggling and came over, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Talia, sweetheart," Lorraine said softly, concern in her voice. "You've done so much for us, more than we ever could have asked for. Maybe it's time to take a little step back, focus on school and give yourself a break." Talia looked up at her mother, torn between pride and fatigue. She wanted to keep going, to keep driving Baker's Haven forward, but she could feel her energy waning, her once bright enthusiasm now overshadowed by worry that if she stopped, the success they'd built might slip away. "But what if we lose the momentum, Mum?" Talia asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want everything we worked for to just disappear." Lorraine smiled gently, brushing a stray curl out of Talia's face. "Listen to me, Talia. What you've done here, it's not something that can be undone overnight. The community loves us because they see who we really are. They see the heart and soul you've put into this place. It's okay to trust that you've done enough, at least for a little while." Her mother's words hung in the air, a balm for her racing thoughts. Talia took a deep breath, nodding slowly. Maybe a small break wouldn't mean abandoning everything. Maybe it was just what she needed to regain her energy, her passion. A few days later, Talia made a plan to gradually transition some of her duties back to her parents and the staff, and to establish routines that would keep the restaurant's social media presence vibrant without requiring her constant attention. She created a schedule of posts, each focusing on different aspects of Baker's Haven, the stories, the recipes, the people, and trained one of the restaurant's longtime waitresses, Ms. Ruby, to help manage interactions online. Ms. Ruby, a cheerful woman in her 50s who'd been with the restaurant for years, had a natural way with people and quickly caught on to the ins and outs of handling the online platform. With Talia's guidance, she started posting updates and responding to comments, her warm personality shining through in every interaction. Knowing that Ms. Ruby could carry on the spirit of Baker's Haven online gave Talia a much-needed sense of relief. As Talia gradually stepped back, she returned to her schoolwork with a newfound focus, finding joy again in the things she'd set aside to help her family. But just as she was beginning to regain her balance, an unexpected visitor arrived at the restaurant one afternoon, catching her and her parents completely by surprise. The visitor introduced himself as Mr. Jameson Green, a representative from a popular online food and culture magazine. He'd seen the success of the Memory Wall, the Recipe of Memories contest, and the Heritage Night event on social media, and was interested in doing a full feature on Baker's Haven. He wanted to capture the story behind the family's legacy and share it with a wider audience. "This place has something special," Mr. Green said, smiling as he looked around the restaurant. "I see a lot of family-owned businesses, but few that resonate with people like this. I think our readers would love to know more about the history, the heritage, and of course, the food that brings everyone here." Nathaniel beamed with pride, giving Talia a grateful look. "Well, we have our daughter to thank for that. Talia's been the heart and soul behind a lot of what you've seen. Talia blushed, smiling shyly as she shook Mr. Green's hand. She couldn't believe that her efforts had drawn this kind of attention. The idea of sharing their story with even more people was exhilarating, yet it also brought a twinge of nervousness. They'd worked so hard to revive Baker's Haven, but reaching a larger audience felt like venturing into uncharted territory. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Green spent time with Talia and her family, documenting their story and interviewing long-time customers who had become almost like family. He photographed each corner of the restaurant, capturing its charm, the faded photos on the walls, the handwritten chalkboard menu, the memory wall adorned with heartfelt notes and recipes. Talia even shared her old sketches and ideas, showing how each one had contributed to the transformation of Baker's Haven. The article was published a month later, and it was everything Talia had hoped for. Titled, "A Haven of Memories, the Legacy of a Family Restaurant," the feature painted a vivid picture of Baker's Haven, its history, and the love that had brought it back to life. The story touched on the roots of the restaurant, the importance of community, and Talia's creative efforts that had given it new hope. The response was immediate. People from neighboring cities began making the trip to visit Baker's Haven, curious to see the place that had captured the magazine's attention. New faces filled the tables, each guest curious to experience the warmth and authenticity they'd read about. As the restaurant grew busier than ever, Talia's parents hired extra staff to help manage the increased demand, and Ms. Ruby became a local celebrity of sorts, greeting guests who recognized her from the social media updates. Baker's Haven was no longer just a local gem. It had become a destination, a place where people came to feel a sense of connection and warmth. One evening, as Talia wiped down the tables after closing, she looked around the restaurant, feeling a profound sense of pride. She'd saved her family's business, but in the process, she had also found herself, her confidence, her creative voice, and her ability to bring people together. As her parents finished closing up, they joined her by the memory wall, which was now overflowing with notes and photos from people who had been touched by Baker's Haven. Talia's mother wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "You know, Talia," Lorraine said, her voice filled with emotion. "When we were struggling, I never dreamed we'd be standing here like this. You did something remarkable, something I don't think your father and I could have ever done alone." Nathaniel nodded, his eyes misty. "You didn't just save the restaurant, Talia. You showed us that Baker's Haven is more than just a place. It's a part of people's lives, a place where memories live on." Talia looked up at her parents, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I just wanted people to see it the way I do," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "Baker's Haven is where I grew up. It's always been home." They stood together in comfortable silence, each of them reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Talia thought back to the first time she'd snapped photos of her mother's cornbread, hoping that her small contribution could make a difference. She'd never imagined how much would change, how much her family's story could inspire others. As she looked around, she realized that Baker's Haven was more than just saved. It was thriving, secure in the love of a community that had embraced it as part of their own story. And in her heart, she knew this was only the beginning. With the strong foundation they'd built, Baker's Haven would stand for generations to come, its walls forever echoing with laughter, love, and the scent of home-cooked food. The following weeks felt like a dream to Talia and her family. With the magazine feature boosting their visibility, Baker's Haven had become more popular than ever. Each night, the restaurant filled with customers, locals, newcomers, and even travelers who had read about their story and wanted to experience the warmth and history of the place firsthand. But with the surge in business came a fresh set of challenges, and Talia quickly realized that keeping Baker's Haven running smoothly now meant more than just creative marketing. The pace was exhausting. Her parents, though delighted with the success, were starting to feel the strain. Nathaniel, who prided himself on personally overseeing the kitchen, was staying at the restaurant longer than ever, and Lorraine rarely had a moment to herself between managing the staff, greeting guests, and overseeing the flow of orders. Talia, too, found herself stretched thin. She had to balance school, her responsibilities at the restaurant, and the now steady demand for updates on Baker's Haven's social media. One evening, as the family gathered around the kitchen table after a long day, Nathaniel looked at Talia, a serious expression softening his tired face. "Talia," he began, glancing at Lorraine, "we can't thank you enough for everything you've done. You saved this place and brought it to heights we never imagined. But I think it might be time for us to think about getting some extra help." Talia's heart sank. She'd wanted to be the one to help Baker's Haven thrive, to be there for every success, every challenge. The thought of stepping back even just a little felt strange and bittersweet. "You're right, Dad," she said quietly, looking around at her family. "But I don't want to lose what makes Baker's Haven feel like home. I don't want it to become some big, impersonal place." Lorraine reached across the table and took Talia's hand. "Honey, no one is going to change what you've built. We want to preserve what makes this place special. But you've given Baker's Haven so much of yourself. Maybe it's time to share that responsibility with others who understand what this place means to us." Nathaniel nodded in agreement. "We're thinking of hiring a manager, someone with experience running a restaurant, who can keep things going smoothly when we can't be here. And we'll add a few more kitchen staff to help ease the workload. This way, you can focus on school, and your mother and I won't have to worry so much about burning out." Talia took a deep breath, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Maybe sharing the load would allow her to enjoy the success they'd worked so hard to achieve. And if they could find people who valued Baker's Haven the way her family did, she knew the restaurant would be in good hands. A week later, Talia and her parents interviewed several candidates for the new positions. They eventually found Mr. Harris, an experienced manager with a warm demeanor and a deep respect for family-run businesses. His grandparents had owned a small cafe, so he understood the balance between tradition and growth. He assured the Bakers that he would honor their vision and help them manage the daily challenges of their bustling restaurant. Mr. Harris wasted no time in implementing efficient systems that allowed the staff to work more smoothly and enjoyably. Under his guidance, the team found their rhythm, and Talia was able to focus her attention on other ways to build the restaurant's legacy. She still handled the social media page, but she was no longer tied to every update, and Ms. Ruby continued to assist with responding to customers online. As Talia settled into this new balance, she began exploring a project that had been in the back of her mind for a while, creating a cookbook that celebrated Baker's Haven's most beloved recipes. She imagined it as more than just a recipe collection. It would be part cookbook, part memory book, a way to share the stories, heritage, and family moments that had made the restaurant what it was. She spent hours after school flipping through her grandmother's old recipe books, marveling at the handwritten notes in the margins, little adjustments that had turned each dish into something uniquely theirs. The cookbook would include the family's classic dishes, the peach cobbler, fried chicken, and collard greens that had become iconic to Baker's Haven, but also a few special recipes shared by long-time customers, recipes that spoke to the restaurant's place in the heart of the community. One evening, As Talia was laying out her ideas for the cookbook, Mr. Harris approached her with a suggestion. "Talia, what if we hosted a cookbook launch night here at the restaurant?" he proposed, his eyes gleaming with excitement. It could be a celebration of all the recipes, with tasting stations for each dish. Guests could try the recipes from the book, meet your family, and get their cookbook signed. Talia's eyes lit up. "That's a fantastic idea, Mr. Harris. We could decorate the restaurant with some of the original family photos, set up a display of the memory wall notes, and even play some of the videos we made to show people the story behind the recipes." Her parents agreed, and as they began preparations, the excitement in the restaurant grew. They worked with a local printing company to design a beautiful cookbook cover featuring a vintage photo of Talia's grandparents standing in front of the original Baker's Haven. The cover was a perfect tribute to the legacy that had inspired the restaurant's revival, and Talia felt a surge of pride every time she looked at it. Finally, the night of the cookbook launch arrived. Guests poured into the restaurant, greeted by the mouth-watering aroma of the featured dishes set up at tasting stations. Each station was dedicated to a recipe in the book, accompanied by a little story that shared its history or a memory associated with it. Talia felt a thrill of excitement as she moved through the room, watching guests sample the food and smile with delight as they learned about the dishes. Ms. Ruby stood near the entrance, handing out cookbooks to guests with her trademark warmth, and Mr. Harris managed the event with a calm, professional ease that allowed Talia and her family to relax and enjoy the celebration. Talia's parents were stationed at a table where they signed cookbooks and chatted with guests, sharing memories of the restaurant's early days. As the evening went on, Talia found herself at a small table where she, too, signed copies of the cookbook, adding a personal note to each one. She felt honored and humbled, knowing that people were taking a piece of her family's legacy home with them. Each book represented not just the recipes, but the love, resilience, and dedication that had brought Baker's Haven back from the brink. Near the end of the evening, Mr. Harris gathered everyone's attention and invited Talia to say a few words. She looked around the room, taking in the sea of familiar and new faces, all of them smiling and waiting to hear what she had to say. She cleared her throat, feeling a swell of emotion. "I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you," she began, her voice steady but filled with warmth. "This cookbook is a part of my family, of all the memories, love, and recipes that have shaped Baker's Haven. And it's also a part of each of you, our customers, our friends, who have stood by us and made this place more than just a restaurant." The room was silent, every eye on her as she continued. "We nearly lost this place once, but with your support, we brought it back together. Thank you for reminding us that Baker's Haven isn't just about food. It's about connection, history, and family. We couldn't have done any of this without you." As she finished, the room erupted in applause, and Talia felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and fulfillment. This journey had taken her from a quiet girl with a camera and a dream to someone who had helped shape her family's legacy and strengthen the bonds within her community. After the cookbook launch, the restaurant continued to thrive, and the cookbook became a beloved keepsake among customers, with many returning to Baker's Haven to talk about the dishes they had tried at home. People shared stories about cooking with their children, using the recipes to create new memories and traditions of their own. And as Talia watched Baker's Haven flourish, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had poured her heart and soul into something meaningful, and it had blossomed into something beautiful. Her family's restaurant, once on the edge of fading away, now stood stronger than ever, held together by love, memories, and the community that cherished it. For Talia, Baker's Haven was more than saved. It had become a beacon, a reminder that some things are worth fighting for, that love and dedication could preserve something precious. And as she looked toward the future, she knew Baker's Haven would continue to thrive, a place where her family's legacy and her own hard work would live on for generations to come. In the months following the cookbook launch, Baker's Haven continued to be a place of warmth, memory, and community, thriving with the love and energy Talia and her family had poured into it. The cookbook became a hit, not only among their customers, but also in the wider community, where it sparked a newfound interest in family-run establishments like theirs. People from neighboring towns traveled to experience the restaurant's history, drawn by its story, food, and the sense of belonging it offered. With a more stable rhythm established, Talia started reflecting on the journey that had brought her and her family to this point. As much as she loved helping at the restaurant, she knew she wanted to continue learning and growing, both for herself and to better serve Baker's Haven's future. She began to wonder what it would be like to study business or marketing in college, to sharpen her skills and understand how she could help her family and her community on an even deeper level. One evening, she found herself standing in front of her parents, excitement tinged with nervousness in her voice as she explained her thoughts. "I've been thinking, maybe I could go to college and study marketing or business," she said, looking down at her hands. "I want to understand how to keep Baker's Haven strong for years to come, and I think that would help." Lorraine looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and surprise. "College? Honey, we would support you no matter what you chose, but are you sure you want to leave?" Talia nodded, a determined look in her eyes. "Yes, I love Baker's Haven more than anything, but I think I need to do this. I want to bring back everything I learned to help make it stronger." Nathaniel took her hand, his face softened by a proud smile. "You've already done so much, Talia. We would be honored to see you go off and follow your dreams. You'll always have a place here with us, and knowing that you're thinking about the future means more than you'll ever know." The next few months flew by in a flurry of applications, essays, and preparations. Talia was thrilled when she received an acceptance letter from a college known for its strong business and entrepreneurship programs. The news was met with joyful celebration at Baker's Haven, where regulars joined her family to congratulate her. They brought flowers, balloons, and heartfelt wishes, treating her success as though it were their own. And in a way, it was. The community had stood behind her and her family, and now, as she prepared to take her next step, they were cheering her on just as loudly. As her departure approached, Talia found herself visiting the restaurant's memory wall more frequently, running her fingers over the notes and pictures. Each memory, each message was a reminder of the love and resilience that had built Baker's Haven. It was more than a restaurant. It was a legacy, and she was ready to carry it forward with everything she would learn. On her last night before leaving for college, the Bakers held a gathering at the restaurant, inviting friends, family, and neighbors to celebrate not only Talia's future, but also the community that had saved Baker's Haven. Tables were pushed together to form a large communal seating arrangement, and the room was filled with laughter, stories, and the comforting aroma of the dishes that had become staples over the years. After dinner, Lorraine clinked her glass, calling the room to attention as she held Talia's hand. "Thank you all for being here tonight to send Talia off," Lorraine began, her voice filled with emotion. "I still remember the day she told us about her idea to help save this place. She was so determined, and she's taught us so much about resilience, about what it means to never give up. And now she's going off to learn even more. We couldn't be prouder." Nathaniel stepped forward, raising his glass. To Talia, and to each one of you, Baker's Haven stands because of you, and while she's away, we'll keep this place running strong, waiting for her to come back with new ideas and that spark we've come to rely on. The room erupted in applause and cheers as Talia looked around at the familiar faces she'd grown up with, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She hugged her parents, promising them and everyone present that she would come back to continue what they had built together. The next morning, Talia packed her bags and hugged her family goodbye. She took one last look at Baker's Haven, a bittersweet smile on her face as she committed every detail to memory. Though it felt difficult to leave, she knew she was ready to take this step. She carried with her a deep sense of pride and purpose, and as she left for college, she promised herself that she would make her family proud. College was a whirlwind of new experiences, and Talia dove into her studies with the same dedication she'd shown at Baker's Haven. Her marketing classes were fascinating, each lesson sparking ideas for how she could apply what she was learning to her family's restaurant. She joined clubs, connected with professors, and even found a mentor, a successful entrepreneur who specialized in helping small businesses thrive. Through late-night study sessions and long conversations with her new friends, Talia shared stories about Baker's Haven, surprising even herself at how much she loved talking about it. She realized that her heart was truly tied to her family's legacy, and she began developing a vision for the restaurant's future that extended beyond anything she had previously imagined. One semester, as part of a business class project, Talia proposed an idea she'd been thinking about since she arrived at college, expanding Baker's Haven to include a small, community-centered cooking school. The idea was to create a space where locals could come to learn the recipes they loved, gaining a deeper connection to the dishes and the people who made them. Her classmates and professor were intrigued, offering feedback and encouragement as she developed the concept. Talia's vision was to bring people even closer to Baker's Haven's story and legacy, making it a place not only to eat, but also to learn, to connect, and to pass down traditions. She imagined her parents teaching classes on the weekends, sharing their skills and wisdom with guests, creating an environment where people could not only enjoy the food, but learn to make it themselves. At the end of the semester, she presented her project, showcasing her detailed plans for the cooking school, complete with a financial model, marketing strategies, and ideas for community partnerships. The presentation earned high marks, but more importantly, it gave Talia a clear vision of the future she wanted to create for Baker's Haven. When she returned home for winter break, she couldn't wait to share her idea with her parents. She gathered them around the table, presenting her proposal with the same excitement she'd felt when she first shared her plans to help save the restaurant. Lorraine and Nathaniel listened, nodding thoughtfully as Talia explained her vision for expanding Baker's Haven. When she finished, her mother wiped away a tear, a proud smile on her face. "You never cease to amaze us, Talia. We can see how much thought and love you've put into this idea. And to think this little restaurant could become a place where people learn and share our traditions. It's beautiful." Nathaniel clapped a hand on her shoulder, his eyes brimming with pride. "You've done it again, Talia. You're carrying on this legacy in ways we never even dreamed of. If you want to make this happen, we'll be with you every step of the way." With her parents' blessing, Talia began to work toward making her dream a reality. Over the next few years, as she balanced college and trips home, she continued to refine her plans for Baker's Haven's future. She stayed connected with the restaurant, helping to manage its online presence and checking in with Mr. Harris and Ms. Ruby, who had become integral parts of the restaurant's operations. Upon graduating, Talia returned home, diploma in hand, and a heart full of gratitude. Her college years had given her the tools she needed, but her family and the community had given her the purpose. Now, with her vision clear and her family by her side, she was ready to embark on the next chapter. Together, they began the process of expanding Baker's Haven to include the cooking school, transforming part of the space into a warm, welcoming kitchen where people could come to learn, cook, and connect. Classes filled quickly, with people eager to learn from Nathaniel and Lorraine, who were thrilled to pass on the recipes and techniques that had been in their family for generations. The addition of the cooking school breathed new life into Baker's Haven, transforming it into a space of learning, connection, and tradition, a place where stories were told, recipes were shared, and memories were made anew. And as Talia watched the first class gather around her father, who shared the story of his mother's famous peach cobbler recipe, she knew that Baker's Haven's legacy was safe, carried forward by the love of the family, the community, and the generations yet to come. As the first class gathered around the counter in Baker's Haven's newly established cooking school, Talia felt a surge of pride. Her father, beaming with the same warm smile that had welcomed countless guests, carefully demonstrated the technique for making his mother's legendary peach cobbler. He shared memories of his childhood, the kitchen filled with laughter, the smell of baking peaches, and his mother's patient voice guiding him through each step. The students watched with rapt attention, not just learning a recipe, but experiencing a piece of the Baker family's legacy. Lorraine moved from station to station, offering encouragement as students rolled out dough and prepared their fillings. Ms. Ruby, who had become an irreplaceable part of the restaurant, shared her own tips with a laugh, adding her infectious energy to the class. The room buzzed with excitement, the air thick with the delicious scents of sugar and butter, and the shared joy of creating something together. After the class wrapped up and the students savored the cobbler they had made, Talia invited everyone to add a note to the memory wall. She'd kept the wall not only as a reminder of the past, but as a testament to all the new memories they were creating. As she watched a young couple write a note about their experience, she felt the warmth of the community surrounding her, each person part of the family's journey. Over the following weeks, the cooking classes grew in popularity, drawing people from even farther away. Baker's Haven became a destination, not just for food, but for connection, learning, and the celebration of traditions. Talia continued to introduce new classes, each one highlighting a different part of her family's history and the unique dishes that had become woven into the community's fabric. She invited guest chefs from nearby restaurants, creating partnerships that only strengthened the sense of community. The success of the cooking school allowed Baker's Haven to expand, bringing in more staff and creating more opportunities for others in their town. Talia loved seeing her dream take root in such a tangible way, watching the restaurant she had grown up in flourish into something even bigger and more beautiful than she'd ever imagined. One evening, after a particularly busy day, Talia found herself alone in the restaurant, the soft glow of the lights casting a warm light over the tables and the memory wall. She walked over to the wall, her eyes drifting over the notes, photos, and memories that had filled it over the years. Some were from the early days when the family struggled to keep the restaurant afloat, reminders of how far they'd come. Others were new, written by guests who had been touched by the classes, the food, and the stories. As she stood there, her father joined her, a quiet smile on his face as he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You've done something truly special here, Talia," he said, his voice filled with pride. "Your mother and I always wanted this place to be more than just a restaurant. And now, thanks to you, it's become something even we couldn't have dreamed of." Talia leaned into his embrace, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I just wanted people to see Baker's Haven the way we do," she replied softly. "A place where memories are made, where people feel like they're part of something bigger." Nathaniel nodded, his gaze drifting over the wall. "You've given us a legacy that will last for generations. You've made this place a part of people's lives, and that's something truly priceless." Lorraine joined them, placing a hand on Talia's other shoulder. "This restaurant is not just our family's legacy anymore," she said, smiling warmly. "It belongs to everyone who's ever come through those doors. You made that possible, Talia." In that moment, Talia understood fully what Baker's Haven had become. It was a sanctuary for stories, a place of shared memories and traditions that would continue to grow and evolve. She saw now that the heart of Baker's Haven was not just in the food or the walls that held their history, it was in the people who had embraced it as their own. As the years went by, Baker's Haven thrived, cherished by a community that had watched it grow and prosper. Talia continued to pour her heart into the restaurant, expanding the cooking school, adding new classes, and inviting community members to share their own recipes and stories. Each year, more notes filled the memory wall, each one a testament to the love and connection that Baker's Haven inspired. Talia eventually began training new staff to carry on the classes and the traditions, ensuring that the spirit of the place would endure long after she stepped back. She saw younger generations come in, eager to learn the recipes that had been part of their families for decades, and she knew that the legacy she had helped shape was strong, resilient, and ever-growing. And though she spent many late nights and early mornings dedicated to the restaurant, Talia always found moments to sit quietly by the memory wall, reading over the stories, feeling the presence of everyone who had been part of Baker's Haven's journey. Each note, each photograph, was a reminder of the lives that had intertwined with hers, the people who had made the restaurant not just a place of business, but a place of love. As the years went on, Baker's Haven became a fixture of the town, its lights a welcoming glow on even the darkest nights. It was a place where generations gathered, where families returned year after year, where newcomers felt like old friends. And at the heart of it all was Talia, the girl who had once feared losing her family's legacy and had instead built it into something even greater than she'd ever dreamed. Baker's Haven stood strong, filled with laughter, warmth, and memories, a beacon of love and community that would shine for generations to come. And as Talia looked toward the future, she knew that Baker's Haven, with its stories, its flavors, and its memories, would always be a haven for her family, for the community, and for everyone who believed in the power of love and tradition